Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to S. Chandan Company Investor Call hosted by Prabhudas Lilladher Private Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Jinesh Joshi from Prabhudas Lilladher Private Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Aisha. On behalf of Prabhudas Lilladher, I welcome you all to the 4Q FY21 earnings call of S. Chandan Limited. We have with us the management represented by Mr. Himanshu Gupta, MD, Mr. Saurabh Mittal, CFO, and Mr. Atul Soni, who's Head Investor Relations. I would now like to hand over the call to the management for opening remarks, and after that we can open the floor for Q&A. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, and very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Himanshu Gupta, the Managing Director of S. Chandan Company Limited. I would like to welcome you all to our fourth quarter and full year results conference for FY21, and thank you all for taking the time out and joining us here today. I trust each one of you and your loved ones are safe in these difficult times. FY21 has been a difficult year for all of us. The pandemic has impacted millions across the country. For the formal education sector, it began in March 2020 and continues to date. School, colleges, education institutes across the country were closed for most part of the academic year and continue to do so. The sector has had to adapt to the changing timelines of examinations, admissions, and to online education. While urban and semi-urban areas have largely adapted, the major impact has been borne by students who have no access or limited access to devices. As per reports, millions of students have had no exposure to formal education during the year, and while they will be promoted to the next level, they would be impacted by this gap. We have, during the pandemic, enabled schools and colleges with online resources. Our Learn6 app was also provided to schools free to access during the initial months. Milestone could also ramp up immediately to providing online education to its users within April 2020 itself. We conducted various workshops and seminars for teachers to train them onto teaching online. We acquired majority stake in Edutech Technologies in August 2020, which now forms the backbone of all our online learning solutions. That is Milestone, Learn6, Educate 360, along with its own Igniter platform. We also launched Educate 360, our learning management system, in October, piloting in almost 50 schools. However, despite the various challenges faced like paper supplies, increase in paper prices during the last quarter, reduced engagement with schools and channel partners during the year, it has been a turnaround year for us in terms of reassessing and restructuring our business and making it more cost-effective and working capital efficient, which resulted in generating positive cash flows. We have been extremely careful during the year to this regard. The plan S-Chan 3.0, envisaged in December 2018, has been completely implemented, and slide 4 to 10 gives a lot of details around the positive outcomes of this plan. I'm extremely happy to report key highlights on this front, that while we retained revenue at the same level as the previous year, we have more than doubled our operating cash flows on a YOY basis. We have also become free cash flow positive after FY18 and reported a huge improvement in this metric. On the balance sheet front, we have reduced our net debt by over 700 million, which led to our lowest net debt level for the group since September 2018. Our focus on reducing inventory also led to our lowest inventory levels in 5 years on a year-ending basis. On the P&L front, we returned to positive EBITDA levels after FY18. Our print business also returns to profitability on back of the full impact of our S-Chan 3.0 program, which led to a very strong reduction in operating expenses of over 46% over FY19. Saurabh, our CFO, would give more details on these financial matters in his remarks. On EdTech front, we are taking strong strides in getting ready for increased adoption of our digital solutions in a post-COVID world. Our most affordable learning app, Learn6, has over 2.3 lakh downloads and over 21,000 paying subscribers. We expect schools which were provided with free usage during FY21 would convert to paying customers in FY22. We also have plans to launch Learn6 Bangla during the first half of this year. Our e-commerce sales for now account for over 10% of the company's revenues, which is an encouraging sign. Our total ebook sales across B2C platforms and B2C sales and B2B sales to institutions has also doubled over the last year during FY21. Madhuban Educate 360, our K-12 learning management system, got implemented in 15 schools post a successful pilot. We expect more schools to use this product as the year goes by. We are in the process of transferring Milestone and Learnprix, our school and student solution, into an SPV Convergia Digital Education Private Limited through a slump sale, with the view of raising capital separately for this business to grow exponentially. Various formalities for this are mostly done, and we expect the process to be completed by July. When I look back over the 12 months, I see FY21 as a year in which we were extremely successful in doing a course correction on financial metrics which were internal to our company and in our control. Now turning to more recent events, we saw the onset of wave 2, leading to schools and education institutions taking precautions and shutting down from mid-March onwards. Most of the institutes preponed their summer holidays from April onwards. The current situation is that schools and colleges have remained closed from March until June. We hope that given the lower number of cases currently, education institutes would start to physically open from Q2 and Q3 onwards. Online classes have resumed in schools as summer holidays have at most places have ended. Our college segment will see shifting of sales from Q1 to Q2 and Q3 as board examinations have been cancelled, and we expect entrance exams to happen over August, September, and academic sessions to start from October onward for higher education institutes. As for FY22, we believe that we are poised for growth across the group to fully leverage a normal sales season. Given the uncertainty around the number of COVID cases, we would see shifting of revenues across quarters as schools and colleges open up in due time. We are looking to increase our book pricing of 5 to 10% across the portfolio on back of paper price hikes over the last 12 to 18 months. This should aid our gross margins in this year. We believe that we have a great opportunity in coming times of blended learning as a medium of education. We are confident of the value add that our digital solutions, along with the strong content repository built over 8 decades, will provide. We feel that these products and services will be the future growth drivers for the group in the coming years. With that, I would now request our CFO, Mr. Saurabh Mittal, to apprise you of all the financial performances of S-Chan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your time. I'm Saurabh Mittal, CFO of S-Chan. In terms of numbers for the full year, our consolidated operating revenues came at 4,252 million versus 4,294 million during the same time last year. In spite of marginally lower sales, our gross margin for the year increased by 3% as a result of product rationalization, distribution of e-specimens, and higher e-commerce and e-book sales. On an annual basis, we have increased our consolidated gross margin to 57% from 54% last year. On the back of our successful implementation of S-Chan 3.0 plan, we saw operating expenses lower by 28% on a comparable basis and 46% lower in comparison to FY19. We returned to EBITDA profitability after FY18 with an EBITDA of 748 million versus a loss of 126 million in the same period last year. Our net loss reduced by 94% to 65 million versus a net loss of 115 million in the same period last year. I would like to point out that we would have returned to profitability had it not been for the onset of COVID wave 2 in March. I would also bring to your attention to slide number 4 to 10, which showcases the results of steps taken during the last 2 years towards building a cost-effective and lower working capital organization with focus on positive cash flows. We continue to focus on working capital rationalization, product rationalization, and growing margins for the coming year. In terms of working capital, debtor days have reduced to 276 days versus 285 days at the end of Q4 FY20. Our net working capital days also decreased to 293 days versus 321 days in Q4 FY20. In terms of debt, we ended the quarter with a gross debt of 2031 million and a net debt of 1284 million, which is lower by 707 million over Q3 FY21. This is the lowest level of net debt since September 2018. I'm happy to report that in terms of cash flows, we saw a massive improvement in operating cash flows coming through from the full implementation of S-Chan 3.0 plan in the past 18 months. Our strategy of focusing on cash flows has yielded results with more than doubling of net cash generated from operations of 1076 million in FY21 versus 484 million in FY20 and 386 million in FY19. On an overall basis, there is an 828 million improvement in free cash generated over last year in spite of pandemic times. We have turned free cash flow positive of rupees 321 million versus negative 507 million last year. As we go into FY22, I would like to call out a couple of things for the coming year. Firstly, we would be taking a price hike across our product portfolio to the tune of 5 to 10%. Secondly, we expect some portion of Q1 revenues to move to Q2 on back of school closures during most of Q1. Similarly, Q2 would see some shifting of revenues from higher education segment on the back of delayed college opening. Thus, Q2 and Q3 could be bigger quarters in comparison to the previous years. Thirdly, with the increased number of vaccination and lower COVID cases, we expect schools and colleges to gradually reopen, and this can lead to normal sales season during Jan to March 22. Thus, if COVID situation holds up, then we can get the dual benefit of higher product prices and normal sales season in FY22. Though it's very difficult to give a guidance number for revenues during pandemic times, but if the above mentioned situation holds up, we can end the year with upwards of 500 crore with higher EBITDA margins. Fourthly, on the debt front, we aim to be net debt free in 2 years and further optimize working capital going ahead. Fifth, the biggest growth driver for our print business would come from the introduction of a new syllabus post the announcement of the NCF. This should lead to strong revenue and profitability growth for 2-3 year periods. Our base case is that the NCF should impact financials from FY23 onwards. An early announcement can greatly change our FY22 financials as well. With this, I would like to open the call for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Deepan Sankara Narayan from Trustline PMS. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks a lot for the opportunity. Firstly, congratulations for the management team for a strong cost control and strengthening balance sheet and improvement in cash flow. So my first question would be, so earlier we were targeting 600 crore kind of revenue for FY21. So these lower revenues will be a last opportunity, or we can make it up for the next during the next 2 quarters.
I'll take that. See, we were targeting 600 crores, but however, the situation across the country with schools not opening and colleges also not opening, the situation remained very, very limited in terms of what we could do during the year. Most of the rural belts got impacted with no schools running at all, even online classes not happening. And that's quite a large portion of our sales. So instead of aggressively pushing into that segment, we've seen what inventories are there in the market, and we prefer not to supply in certain locations because that would not help at all. So we've tried to be as conservative as possible to ensure that, we don't waste resources just for the hell of it. So, yeah, while revenues are much lower than expected, but I think the end result of making money on revenue is there, and we have what we targeted in terms of profit is quite there already.
Okay. So the assessment in terms of Q1, has it improved in terms of even online classes starting up and books ordering has improved, or still we are seeing not improvement much?
I think the first quarter this year has been greatly impacted because, as you know, the second wave and the lockdown hit us in the month of April and May, and that was the first quarter. So our offices were also closed, our warehouses, factories were also closed. So the first quarter has been impacted this year. We will still get to know the full results after the closing of the first quarter, but it has been impacted because of the second wave.
Deepan, just to add, we have also mentioned in our presentation that we expect Q1 this year to be softer versus Q1 of last year, and the revenue should get shifted to later quarters.
Okay. So this whatever we were running sort of in FY21, how much could have been recoverable in coming quarters?
Difficult to say. Very difficult to say how much we'll recover, because sometimes the decision of the customer is postponed, or sometimes even the parents or the children can get used books, or they exchange the books from their friends or their neighbors or wherever. But we believe that it will all depend on how the schools open up, because the important part of school opening up is very important. That we are still not sure.
Okay. And in terms of FY22 guidance of 500 crores, are we also incorporating some part of revenue coming from NEP as well?
Not as of now. No.
Okay. So what is the status on NEP? How things are moving over there?
The status is still not very clear. We are just thinking, because as the schools are not opening up and bringing a new curriculum for the government, and to train the teachers and to implement that in the school where the physical schools have not opened will be a difficult task for the government. So we believe that it might not happen this year, it might happen next year, but we are still not sure about it.
Okay.
So Deepan, if you look through our presentation, we have mentioned that for us now the base case is the implementation of NCF in FY23. That is what we have shared as our base case. Obviously, if it happens earlier, then it is positive for FY22, but that is not something what we are building in currently.
So that's why we are expecting FY22 to be an organic revenue growth.
Yes.
Okay. And whatever
this is a government matter, so it's very difficult for us to give a guidance on when it will be released. But yeah, I mean, given the way the pandemic is going on, and the authorities are busy in handling the pandemic at this stage, so we don't have a lot of confidence in it being released within this year.
Okay. And what are our growth targets for LearnFlip? Last year we have been discussing about around 1 lakh paying subscribers over next year, right? FY22. So is that target still remains with us?
Yes, the target still remains. Unfortunately, we were targeting that because it's more of a B2B sale for us, not a B2C. B2C sale requires a lot of marketing, which at this point of time, unless we have a fundraise, we will not go ahead with that. So we are still working on the B2B space, and once schools are able to operate normally, I'm sure that will happen.
Okay. And lastly, our other intangible assets increased by 33 crores. Any specific reason for that?
That's more of an accounting issue. That's on account of the editor becoming a subsidiary. We acquired it in August last year, and then the platform Igniter was valued at a higher listing. So that it's more of an accounting issue, not really a cash outflow.
Okay. Thanks a lot, and all that.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Ajay Sharma from Cycas Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I just had a very broad question here. So as an investor, is it best to think of this company as an ed tech company? And if it is, how do you view the competition and the consolidation that's happening right now in the edtech space? How is the company changing, its culture, its structure, its management strategy to be able to better deal with this competition?
So I would not call ourselves an edtech company as an edtech company as such. However, we are a content company, and we provide content on different medium, whether it is the print medium or the digital medium. As far as competition is concerned, we are in the formal sector, and we are not really in the supplementary education space. So while most of the competition that you're talking about would possibly be in the supplementary space. So on the formal education front, most of the players are doing the same thing. I mean, they are providing both print and digital content to the schools, and that's where we would continue to focus, because that's what is core to us, providing quality content to educational institutions on a B2B or B2C basis, and that continues to be our focus. Currently, we don't have a plan of doing any supplementary.
But Ajay, when you say competition, do you mean edtech competition, the likes of Byju's and all, or do you mean publishing competition? Publishing competition.
I mean competition from the likes of Byju's and all, because they're also expanding into content, and they're also now dealing with schools. So I'm looking at the long term, maybe like 5 or 10 years.
So basically, Ajay, our focus is mainly because our strength is the relationship that we have with the schools and the team that we have and the content that we have. So basically, we are more a B2B2C kind of a player. So we would like to focus our energies on the B2B2C segment, where we believe a LearnFlix like kind of an app which is quite affordable, which is priced at 2,500 rupees per child per year, whereas a Byju or any other product in that category is priced at 40,000 to 50,000 rupees per child per year. So we are quite affordable. So we believe that we could have done more if the schools would have opened. But whenever the schools start opening up, we are already in touch with them. We will be able to do a lot of contracts with these schools and be able to provide the content in the form of personalized learning app to these schools. So we believe we want to play to our strengths and not try to follow others in that way.
Okay, so in the next maybe 5 years, you're not so worried about potential competition from the edtech space, from the likes of Byju and all that?
In terms of the print business, I don't think so Byju is going to enter the print business. I don't know personally. But if you want to say that the books will be replaced by digital only, we still believe that books, digital and print will go on hand in hand. And still it is going hand in hand, because students do need books. And we have seen also through the onset of COVID in the last 15-16 months, even I can talk about my personal experience with my kids, they are facing a lot of online education fatigue, sitting on the computer the whole day long and doing their classes. And still they need books for reference. So books are still being used by children, even when they're using online. But when the physical schools open up, definitely the book sales will definitely increase in that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would request the participants to please press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Devang Patel from NAFA Asset Management. Please go ahead.
So first question was on the edtech space. What kind of competition are we seeing in the B2B2C space? You earlier mentioned you're staying away from B2B, but in our particular space, what kind of competition is there?
So in terms of affordable pricing, there are some players which have come in. I think there was a player by the Z, I think started one in the learning. Are you talking about the LearnFlix space, or because Milestone has a different set of competitors and LearnFlix has a different set of competitors? So in terms of Milestone, the competition is more or less with Exceed, with Lead, with IMAX. All these are the players in Milestone competition. In LearnFlix, There are 2 or 3 players, but they are not substantial players because the school personalized learning app solution, I think, is not a very old business. It only started, I think, 1.5, 2 years back. So there's still a new proposition, and no major player I have seen which has cracked the market because the schools have been closed for the last 15, 16 months already.
Okay. So I had a question on the inventory and the auditor qualification. In the December results, the qualification was not there. So was it because it was a limited review of the numbers?
No, so we got an inventory. So we do a half-yearly inventory verification, and last year we got it done in October, November. But this time, normally what we do it post-season in end of April or first week of May. Last year also same thing happened, and end of April was not possible. This time also end of April, the whole of May it was practically impossible to do physical verification because warehouses were closed most of the time, and we barely had people on the ground to. We probably started our warehouses somewhere at the end of May because of the pandemic. So we couldn't get it done, and hence we are trying to do the physical verification the first week of July. So it will be out in the limited review of the next quarter.
Okay. And when the new curriculum comes out, is there any risk to our older inventory of books? Would there be some write-off if a new curriculum is coming on?
We've already taken a provision for inventory across the group, which is already factored into the financials. Last year, it was around 10 crores. This year also, I think it's around 10-12 crores. We've already taken that. Having said that, there is some risk. I'm not saying there's no risk at all. However, as the NCF comes out, the deployment happens over a period of 2-3 years. And this year also we have time to look at our inventory. Our target for inventory reduction is to bring it down to around 80 crores by the end of this year. And a lot of the inventory that we have is also includes higher education inventory and a lot of the general titles which don't have the same kind of risk. So I would say, I mean, it's not substantial. It's not a huge risk to the system, but it is there, and most of it has been provisioned for.
So just to clarify, did you say inventory you're looking to bring down further to 80 crores next year?
That is our target, yes. We brought it down from 200 to 137. Our next target is to bring it down to about 80 crores.
Right. So on the employee cost point now, we've done very well in the last 2 years, and we are back to levels probably in FY16. What kind of headcount reduction have we done, and in which areas have we pulled down our headcount?
See, a total, so the reduction in the employee cost would largely also be on account of the pay cuts that we had to introduce last year. Most of them have been rolled back, and so I don't see employee cost going forward reducing as such, but we would like to maintain it at slightly this level or slightly maybe 10% higher. We've done about our number of people is down by about 200 to 150 people across 200.
And what kind of percentage reduction?
Yeah, so I mean we've reduced our headcount by about 15-20% over the last 2 years. And largely this is into back-end operations. Front end, of course, we've not. Front end has been about 5-7% only. But I mean the sales and editorial, we've really retained most of the people. And back end, we've consolidated our locations into a few locations. So supply is being centralized so that we have less locations, less people to handle it, and that is also helping us on the inventory side. So less number of warehouses means less inventory to keep. Otherwise, there's a duplication of inventory at multiple places. So we brought down our warehousing locations in the parent company from what used to be about 18, 19 locations to now we are down to 4. And that's helping us on the inventory side, both at the number of SKUs and also the cost of managing that.
In addition, we've also closed a number of offices. So you know, if you close over let's say around 15-20 offices, there are a lot of staff in every office, which goes in the usual running of the office. So a lot of those people have also been let go.
Okay. On CapEx, what kind of CapEx have you done this year and in which area?
CapEx is around 12 crores as of the cash flow.
Okay, so total CapEx is about 12 to 15 crores, and it's largely around content development.
Okay. Sir, and we have about 14 subsidiaries and associates also together. Other than the digital subsidiaries, does it make sense to merge the larger ones and take a benefit of any tax shelter?
So the smaller ones we are already merging. It's in process. I think so we should be reducing about 4 subsidiaries by the end of next year. The larger ones have, we're not planned on as of now, but maybe going forward we will have a relook at the structure. Since all of them have different operating cycles and a niche kind of product line. So far the front end team and the content team has been kept separate, so that the culture of that company remains. Well, a lot of these are acquired entities. So we'll bring it down to about 8-9 entities over a period of time, but we haven't planned for anything more than that.
Okay. Sir, on this 3.0 initiative, what further could we expect both on margins and working capital?
S-Chan 3.4 is complete. 3.0 is complete for us. So cost reduction, yes, where not required, we will definitely be relooking. But now we are focusing more on 4.0, which we'll share probably next quarter. We will look at our digital initiatives, how to move them on. We'll be looking at a lot of data points and developing our other initiatives. So currently, cost side, I don't see too much that we can do. We've reduced 157 crores fixed cost over 2 years. I mean, there is not much more you can do in that.
So I mean, in 2 years we've gone from almost 330 odd crores of operating expenses to around 177 crores this year.
Right. Sir, and lastly on the fundraise for the EdTech businesses, has there been any delay or pushback because of COVID?
Yeah, I mean, so we still have engagements ongoing with investors, and we are discussing with 2-3 of them, very, very preliminary stage. Can't disclose anything as of now, but we still at it.
Right, sir. Also,
having said that, our own cash flows have improved. So we've not been very aggressive on going on the fundraise, but now it looks like we can manage a lot of things from our own internal cash flows without diluting at this point of time.
But a big ad spend push or a B2B, B2C, change would come only after fundraise, is it?
Yeah, B2C, of course, we will not be investing till the time we have a fundraise. But the rest of it, B2B can continue with the current. And to be honest, our milestone is almost break even in terms of EBITDA, and so we feel we can continue to run it ourselves.
Thank you. We would request the current participant to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions, as we have several participants waiting for their turn. The next question is from the line of K.R. Senthilnathan from NASA Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Sir, thank you for the opportunity. Sir, if NEP comes, how much do we have to spend for our content? And already we have started spending for that, one. And number two, and if NEP comes, what would be will you be taking the price hike, and how much that would be?
So currently we haven't started spending, see, our content development is both a function of we have a good author base for which we already pay royalties to them. So upfront spend is not very large. On the whole, I would say at the max we probably end up spending about 10 to 15 crores on the implementation of the NCF. And
a lot also depends on what comes in the NCF, right? So I mean, depending on the number of changes, you'll appreciate that for subjects like maths and science, basic things don't change. Maybe the ordering of the type, the subject, the ordering of various topics can change. The way they are being brought about or being taught can change. But a lot of this content is there and it will continue to be used in future years. So yes, for languages things can change. So we need to see what the contours of the NCF are to be able to give you a firm answer to that.
And secondly, obviously, the price will also depend on the number of pages that the book will contain after the NCF comes in. So if the book becomes much more thicker, the price will increase. If the book becomes thinner, the price might remain same or decrease also. So that also we don't know till the time the book is ready to print in the market.
Okay. And how much would be the secondary sale market, sir, in the entire curriculum? Approx.
In the?
Sorry? In the secondary market, the secondary sale market?
Secondary sales? What do you mean the secondary sales market, sir?
I mean second sales market, because if the curriculum comes, everyone has to buy the new curriculum, whereas now already the used books will be in the circulation. So how much would be that number?
So CBSE schools, the secondary market sales or the second-hand book market sales, this is a COVID time, so this is a different situation. But in a normal situation where the COVID was not there, we expect 15 to 20% books could have been exchanged or purchased. But after the new curriculum, that number will be 0%. So that increase in sales in terms of units should come in. But maybe it doesn't come in the first year. Maybe normally the implementation takes 2 to 3 years for the new curriculum to set in. So the first 2-3 years, we will see a good runway in growth in terms of sales and unit sales also at that time.
So this runway growth will be more or less to the extent of this 20%, sir? Is that, is that will be the right assumption towards moving towards this?
In terms of value growth, yes, value growth, we should have a good number. As the price part, we still don't know, so defining that number will be difficult. But yes, unit-wise growth would be good, for sure.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anirudh Jain from HU Consultancy. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. So just wanted to understand your broader view on this digital business. So in the coming, let's say, next 3 to 5 years, what is the percentage of revenue, marketing spend, capex we are expecting from that segment?
So in terms of marketing spend, again, depends on the kind of funding that we do. If you have to go to the B2C route, B2B continues to be the same. We don't really have too much of a spend in marketing except for the people that we would need on the ground. So what was the other part of your question?
See, currently, digital is almost 6 to 7% of our revenues, and we target around this could reach upwards to 20 to 25% over a 3 to 5 year period.
Okay. And sir, what is the percentage of revenue we are looking from the digital business in the coming 3 to 5 years?
That's what I said, 20 to 25%. Because see, print, the print business as of now is almost 90% plus. So that's not going to vanish over the next 3 years, right? So that business will stay with NCF coming through, that business more stronger.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And sir, what is the active users for Milestone and LearnFlix?
See, my active users for Milestone
is 1 lakh plus, I think.
So there are about 150,000 students on the Milestone schools, and out of that, I think about 60-70% are using the digital platforms, which is going through the Milestone app. LearnFlix, we have a total of 200K downloads, plus active users, I think so we were 35-40,000. And
Okay. And the last question is on Convergia. So once the fundraise happens, how we are thinking to utilize that fund, whether it will be used by Convergia for expansion or there will be some upstreaming to Eschan?
Purely for.
So And for Convergia, in terms of what we'll use the money for, it's going to be used in three ways. One is to drive aggressive growth. We would, of course, enhance the team. The current team is small. Secondly, we have to do a lot of product development in terms of the platform itself to add further features to the platform. And of course, then third, of course, is the content development required for LearnFlix to become a complete K-12 solution. Currently, it's a 6 to 10 maths and science solution. We are adding social studies this year, but it has to be a K-12 solution for it to have a wider spread.
Just to give a clarification, it will be purely used by Convergia and for Convergia. It will not be used by the publishing business.
Okay.
Because the fundraise will be in the name of Convergia, so it will be used, the proceeds will be used for that particular endeavor.
Okay. And is there any expectation on the maximum stake we want to dilute?
Maximum about 25-30%.
25 to 30%. Okay. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Ramkrishnan from Invest ED. Please go ahead.
Hi, so I'm audible?
Yes,
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Congratulations on the good set of numbers. I wanted to ask about this milestone, sir, because see, what I've noticed is that just like you have milestone, a lot of other people are also offering these learning management systems. So how much pressure are you kind of facing from schools to, I mean, not pressure, I would say, but how much competition is there really, for people to push this?
So Milestone is in its fifth year, and it's a good product. It solves the problem because it goes to the affordable private schools where they have a problem of quality teachers. So it gives them the complete 360 degrees benefit of telling them what to teach, how to teach, when to teach. So there's a complete blueprint on what the school needs to do. And currently, apart from Lead is probably the one that is going ahead in this aggressively. Apart from that, we've been growing well in the last 4-5 years, and this is being well accepted and appreciated across the schools. Targeted to the 1,000 to 4,000 rupees per month.
Okay, sir. So just a follow-up to that. So when you offer this milestone, does that also kind of ensure stickiness for the content that S-Chand has? At the same time, does milestone also offer content from other publishers as well?
No, the milestone is complete curriculum, K to 8, all subjects. So it has its own curriculum. Of course, S-Chand content has not been used, but it has been reviewed by the S-Chand experts, and it's completely independent content which goes to the school.
So there is no other publisher book which goes in milestone content. The whole content from all the subjects in that particular class, the content for that book is basically milestone content only.
Okay, sir. Clear on that.
Having, let's say, 5 books from 5 publishers, you have all the books for all subjects by milestone.
Right, sir. So, and sir, is it possible in your future presentations to just explain the revenue model of Milestone? Because I understand you won't have enough time on this con call, but is it possible in the future presentations for us to understand the revenue model of Milestone versus Educate 360? Because to a layman, it just seems the same, like we're not able to understand the difference between an Educate 360's offering versus a Milestone.
So what I would suggest is that let's do a call separately and we can explain it more in detail to you.
Perfect, sir. Perfect. That would be great. I'll connect to you after the call, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Deepak Mehta, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for taking my question and good set of numbers. So my question is around the pass back of the cost. So if you see raw materials such as paper prices has been increased, so how long it takes you to pass back the cost to the customers?
So in this case, as last year, COVID situation had set in and we decided to help the students and the school's management that we should not increase the prices. So we did increase the prices. A lot of the industry people also didn't increase the prices in this regard. But as the paper prices have increased last year, we believe the paper prices a little softened down after the increase. But we normally do annual paper contracts, which makes our paper prices quite stable. But last year was an exceptional year where the price increase was 30 to 40%. Normally the price increase happens 5 to 10%, that is still in the contract. And this year we are going to pass on the paper prices to the in the books, where we are going to increase the book prices between 5 to 10% depending on book to book. So that should be able to help absorb the paper prices increase. Yeah.
Okay. And my last question is around the digital content. So you are targeting the revenue of around 25%. So how much overall growth you are expecting from digital content? And you said that 20% value growth we can expect in next 3 years overall revenue, right, sir?
No, sir. Currently, digital is around 6 to 7% of our total revenues.
Yes, sir. Right now,
it to become 20 to 25 over the next 3 years.
Okay. And at the same time, what will be the growth in our legacy business in paper one?
The print business, depending again on the COVID situation, as Saurabh has earlier mentioned, we like to cross 500 crore revenue this year. And when the new curriculum comes in, then the growth part and the sales growth will be more aggressive. And we will see a much better double-digit number growth at that time. But till that time, we would be looking at normal organic growth.
Okay. So the curriculum changes is going to be happen in next 3 years. It will face.
That will happen in 2 to 3 years. The syllabus might come in next year that we are hoping for. We are hoping to come in this year, but looks difficult because the schools might not like to change the syllabus in this COVID times. Looks difficult.
What's the best wishes?
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jinesh Joshi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Sir, 2 questions from my side. First is on the revenue front. Obviously, we were flat in this year because of COVID. But can you highlight how have our peers done in FY21? Have they seen such kind of a flattish number on the sales side, or have they seen some kind of erosion in sales? And also, given the fact that last 2 years have been very bad for the publishing industry, are we going to witness any kind of reduction in the number of players going ahead?
Yeah. So to answer that question, there's only one listed company on the stock exchange, which is Navneet, which does almost similar kind of a revenue in terms of publishing, and they do stationery also. So what we have seen in their numbers, the reduction in terms of the sales last FY21 number in publishing was close to around 45%. So that has been their sales has been quite seriously dropped. And as for the other players in the market that we have come to know, there is a phase of consolidation because a lot of people are facing difficulties on the financial front, and especially the small and medium players are facing that difficulty. The market is started to go through a phase of consolidation, and in next 2 to 3 years there will be lesser players in the market, but the players that will remain will be bigger and more serious players in the market, and that is good for people like us.
Jinesh, and NCF should also help that process. So I mean, once the new syllabus comes in, then lesser number of players will be able to come out with books catering to that new syllabus. It will take some time for the smaller guys to develop their content or copy the content, either way. So, that will also accelerate this process of the big becoming more bigger, like we are seeing in many other industries.
Sure. And secondly, on the receivables side, I see that our receivables are at 320 crores odd. On inventory front, we mentioned that we intend to bring it down to 80 crores. So is any kind of optimization possible on the receivable side as well?
Jinesh, we have to also take into account that most of our sales happens in Q4. And the academic session starts only in March, April. So till the time the school gets the books and they are able to sell the books is when the money will come in. So I don't see a substantial moment of in the receivables at the end of March. But having said that, subsequently this number will change. So if you look at Q1, we'll probably end up with collections of close to 100 crores. So we are getting better in terms of Q on Q numbers subsequently. So in terms of receivables, we probably should look at our receivables numbers by the end of Q2 and Q3 to really assess if there has been an improvement. March would not really represent any, but having said that, if you in terms of the quality of receivables, last year, despite the pandemic, we've seen better collections come in, our older collections come in, and even our provision for doubtful debts has actually been reversed in this year. So that means we've actually gone ahead and recovered a lot of our old receivables despite the situation. So at similar sales, our receivables have been lower. It will gradually go down. I don't think we can do, but we can target about at the end of March about between 240 to 260 days at best.
Fair enough. So one last question. Any target you would like to share on the cash flow front, because our OCF in FY21 was probably the best ever we have ever reported. So any specific target you have in mind for FY22?
Again, see, the situation is difficult, and but we continue to work according to this. And with the reduction in inventory that we are looking at and receivables, I think we should target a similar or a slightly higher number for next year.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. The last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thanks a lot, everyone. And this has been a complete turnaround journey. And we will continue on this path where we will try to conserve capital, conserve cash, and focus on how to grow our cash flow from operations. And at the same time, we will also look at new growth opportunities whenever they are available to us, and focus our energies on the digital front as well. And just like to say that please be safe, your families should be safe, take care of yourselves, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. On behalf of Prabhudas Lilladher, that concludes this conference. Thank you everyone for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.